Greetings Midcoast Ukers, Jeff Weinberger coming at you here again with a new ukulele tutorial. You probably recognize that one, Walking After Midnight. That's a song that Midcoast Ukes used to do quite a while ago, and kind of fell out of rotation just because it had been around for a long time, and we had ended up learning some other Patsy Cline songs and just moved on to some other things. But in case any of you really wanted to dive into this tune and get it together, let's take a look at it. Let's take a very close look and a deep dive into the song. So it's in the key of C. Patsy Cline recorded it in the key of C, so that's fortunate. You can play right along with the record if you want to, with these very chords that we're learning. Here are the chords involved first, before we even get into strums and rhythms and licks and all of that. Let's just talk about the chords. We have a C chord. We have this kind of funky chord called A flat 7. And if this original version of A flat 7 that is on the song sheet is difficult for you, if you cannot do 1, 3, 2, 3, 4 different fingers on 4 different notes, 4 different strings, then it is possible to cheat and use a G7 chord, which everyone can do, moved up 1 fret, but just don't play your G string. Try to avoid the G string or mute it out by touching it with another finger, or just avoid it with your right hand, and you get a perfectly good A flat 7. 1 fret higher than G7. So that's a nice little trick for those of you that are intimidated by this 1, 3, 2, 4 fingering. Alright, after that, we're going to be talking, of course, about G7. 0, 2, 1, 3. There is an F7 chord in this tune, and the easiest way to play F7 is 2, 3, 1, 0, but that could also be 2, 3, 1, 3, if you want to get your pinky in there. It's just a different sounding voicing, but they're virtually the same. This one and this one. Very similar. Alright, and then we are going to be dealing later on in the song, like in the bridge for instance, with an F chord, which you all know, 2, 0, 1, 0. And I do believe that's it. Is there a C7 in the song? Let's see. Yes, there is. So let me show you C7. Right before the bridge, there's a C7. And that's 0, 0, 0, 1. Now, you probably are aware that there are other versions of these chords. You don't always have to do these chords down here on the neck in the open position of the ukulele. But we're not going to get into that today. But if you're curious, you can always ask me about that. We could even have a lesson if you wanted to schedule a private lesson over Zoom. I would be glad to show you any of these up the neck chords, any of these other versions of the chords that we talk about. For instance, that C7 that we did as 0, 0, 0, 1. There's a nice C7 sitting here. 3, 4, 3, 3. Brighter sounding. Functions the same. It can be interchangeable with the other one, but it just has a different sound. And there's lots of other C7s around too. So let me know if you're interested in up the neck chords and learning other ways to play these songs just to spice it up and to have something different to play to add to the mix. Then I would be happy to show you that stuff. But in the meantime and in between time, let's stick with mostly open chords here. Other than that, of course, A flat 7, that is no open strings at all. I'm going to give you a close-up of that, so you can see that I have my first finger, my third finger, my second finger, and my pinky lined up to do my A flat 7. Alright, as far as the intro goes, it's just a short little intro. It's more or less the same thing twice. It's C to A flat 7 to G7 twice. That's when I do my little solo thing. I go, or whatever it was that I played. I had an intro worked out that I've since forgotten over time here, but I could easily bring that back to the front of my memory banks if I needed to. But it was something along those lines, emulating the pedal steel guitar on that song that was on the original Patsy Cline tune. Alright, so the strum, as far as strums go for that intro, probably just a down, up, but give it a nice swing. Like that. lot of early country music like Patsy Cline and things from back then in the 50s and even into the 60s did have a little bit of a swing to them. They had a little bit of that happy trails, I think of it as. Boom-ka-jinka, 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 boom. Happy trail, a clippity-cloppity horse-riding kind of cowboy beat. Gene Autry and all of that. Dale Evans and Trigger and whatever. So back in that day with country music, it had a very different feel to it than perhaps it has today. So to capture that feel, down and up is good, but make sure it swings. Make sure your first strum lasts a little bit longer than your second strum. Your second strum would be a little shorter. Not straight up and down with even eighth notes. Not 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, but 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and long, short, long, short. That's what gives it that nice loping kind of horse riding kind of feel. Alright, so the intro is very easy. Let's do that together. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. One thing you'll notice that I do, besides add little strums in between some of those strums I described, I use my pinky for the C chord. By using your pinky for C, that allows you to keep it there for your A flat 7. You just plop your other 3 fingers down to get that A flat 7. So that can be a nice chord changing trick. Then when I'm doing my A flat 7, I just simply slide that down to make my G7. I keep my 3rd, 2nd, and 4th fingers on the ukulele, take my 1st finger away, and slide that chord down. That gives you a G7. So that's pretty cool. That allows us to play those 3 chords with minimal motion. It's possible to do it in a more traditional way with your 3rd finger on the C chord, but that kind of makes for more work. So you might want to get used to doing that pinky C, doing the A flat 7, and then sliding the A flat 7 back a fret to make G. Alright, then we get into the verse. I go out walking is C, after midnight C7, under the moonlight, or out in the moonlight, excuse me, which is F7. And then we have like we used to do is still on F7, but then I'm always walking is back to C, after midnight searching for you. And that midnight was A flat 7. Searching was G7, and U was C. Then we just throw a quick A flat 7, G7 after that to bring us to the next part of the verse. I walk for miles along the highway, that's just my way of saying I love you. I'm always walking after midnight, searching for you. There's a little trick I like to throw in there, and that's whenever a song goes from C to C7, there's an opportunity to climb down to the C7. So you have your C chord at the 3rd fret, like you always do. Then you could put a C major 7 after it at the 2nd fret, and then a C7 at the 1st fret. I just like the sound of that little walk down. So you probably hear me do that quite often. We have a lot of songs that give me an opportunity to do that when it goes from a C chord to a C7. So that's just a little trick I like to do. You don't necessarily have to do that. It's just an embellishment. So that takes us from the verse into the chorus. And you'll notice on the song sheet, there's a little box, a text box, and it says lazy shuffle. And that's what we were talking about when we were doing. That's a lazy shuffle. It's got a nice swing to it, and it's definitely a shuffle pattern, almost like blues music. Alright, and the bridge, we start on F. I stopped to see a weeping willow crying on his pillow. C, maybe he's crying for me. There you can do that walk down to C7. Maybe he's crying for me. Almost falls with the vocal. It kind of matches the melody when you do that. And then, and as the skies turn gloomy, night winds whisper to me, that's all an F chord. I'm lonesome as I can be, C to G7. Lonesome as I can be, I go out walking, and this turns into just basically a verse. After the chorus, we're kind of just repeating the verse. That's a very common form in pop music, in country music being a form of popular music, where you have a chorus or a bridge. In this case, I might have called it the chorus, sorry, I really meant the bridge. But where you have a bridge, and then the bridge kind of winds up into another verse. A verse gets repeated, or there's a new verse after the bridge. That's very common. We have lots and lots of songs that do that. On our song sheet, we're just calling all of that the bridge. So even the, I go out walking after midnight in the starlight, just a hoping you may be somewhere a walking after midnight, searching for me. The verse that kind of ends the first page. That's under the heading bridge on our song sheet. So you can think of that as just part of the bridge. But just keep that in mind, that you're going to see that a lot. That might help you learn songs faster, being aware of the form of the song and some of the common tendencies that songs have as far as their verses, choruses, and bridges go. That falls under the category of musical form. If you learn about musical form, about intros and verses and choruses and bridges and interludes and solos and endings and codas and all that good stuff, you really understand music so much better. It really gives you a big picture of what's going on. All right. And so there is a second page, but it's all repetition at that point. We have that little instrumental that I do, but that's over the intro once again, so we don't have to go back over that. That's basically the song, Midcoast Ukers. You just have to get some really basic chords together, a nice shuffle strum. There's other things you can do in there to make it fancy. Let me know if you're interested in that sort of thing, how to take Walking After Midnight and add some of the chucks and little things that I like to add, maybe a few triplets here and there. I'd be glad to show you that. All right, you know where to find the song sheet, of course, midcoastukes.org, so don't have to really point you there. But in case you don't have the song sheet, if you're a newer member or you just have lost track of where your song sheet is, you can always print out a new one from midcoastukes.org. All right, Midcoast Ukers, I hope that helps you understand Walking After Midnight a little better. Hope you have fun playing it, and I will catch you next time. Bye-bye.